Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast, where we're getting stuck into the jumps action at the showcase meeting at Cheltenham. Don't forget to get online and watch all our content that Don McLean and I went and filmed with the Cheltenham and Matchbook teams but leading up to the showcase meeting. That can be found on all the homepages, my homepage or the Matchbook homepages on Instagram and Twitter, etc. So all the behind the scene content, which was great fun to go and film. I'm pleased to say that alongside me, you can see Sam Turner and Micheál Deasy are in situ. Deasy, you've got some news first of all on multiples. Off you go, sir.
Yeah, we're delighted to announce that we finally have multiple bets, or active bets as we're calling them, on Matchbook. So obviously as an exchange we were limited in that way that we couldn't offer doubles and trebles, but we've now added that feature. So from this weekend on, now you can place your active bets and multiple bets on Cheltenham and all horse racing and numerous other sports as well. So if you fancy a nice price double or treble this weekend, we're the place to place it.
Good news, and we'll be looking to incorporate that as the weeks progress into the jump season, into the bets we're putting up as well, looking to make use of that. Right, the way we're going to approach this is we're doing this nice and early to get it out there, get a bit of content into building into the showcase meeting. It means, and given the shape of the races, we felt we'd just go through the card for you on Friday afternoon. Look out for the one for Saturday afternoon, which is going to land tomorrow as well. So that is what we're going to do, 7 races, and we will take you through the card and hopefully give you 7 winners between us all as well. But we'll see how that goes. First of all, first race is the 2 o'clock. It's the Ballymore Novices Hurdle over 2 mile 5. Well named, given it's over that trip. Dees, kick us off with this if you can.
Yeah, so this looks like a good race, and the one I had come down on was Champagne Well for Fergal O'Brien. I thought he had good season last year. He was kind of brought along nice and slowly. He started off in Class 5s, but he came onto my radar when he gave Downtown Getaway a race at Ascot on Clarence House Day in January. They thought enough of him that he had to go on the Sefton Novice at Aintree at the end of the year against Champ, and he turns up here. Fergal O'Brien's horses are going all right. I think he'd probably be about 3rd or 4th favourite. I was against the Gordon Elliott horse at the top. I'd say he's going to be favourite for Braids Blue. I just don't know what he's been beating up in Scotland. I think he's three wins in a row up in Port in very small fields. Could be a good horse. And the Charles Byrne horse, Dr. Duffy, I was against him as well because I didn't think he had great form. But I saw a stable tour with Charles Byrne this morning. I don't know how they actually got him to do a stable tour. That's an achievement in itself. But he said that this horse probably won't be graded class. So I'm in 2 minds now to back for everything that he's in an anti-post for Cheltenham, or he could be a super horse. But I'm going to stick with Champagne Well. That was the one I came down on first when I was going through the race. So
I'm just going to throw off the back of that, Sam, if I can ask you a question just on how you approach these Irish runners sometimes. There was an article, I think, in the Post about Charles Burns wanting to target the showcase meeting. It might have been a PR email I got. And also I remember Gordon Elliott a few years ago doing rather well here. Do you have a sort of hard and fast view on the Irish raiders for this meeting as a rule?
No, I don't. I mean, there's Sharp, there's Shrewd, and then there's Charles Burns, isn't there? And, Gordon Elliott wouldn't be far behind him either. To be honest, I prefer to let, what they do on the track really dictate my view of them if I can. I thought Dr. Duffy put up a really nice day in performance last time. Looked like he could have been headed at the last, or was certainly in the process of being overtaken at the last, but really knuckled down to his task well. If they get the 5 or 6 mils of rain as well through Friday, that'll suit him. I think he won't mind ploughing through the mud to win this. He's a very intriguing runner, and I think Charles Burns has brought 3 over. I think there's one on the flat somewhere, and also a couple at Cheltenham tomorrow. So he's going to be well represented over the next couple of days. The horse that I'm really intrigued about seeing is L'air du Vent. So excuse my French pronunciation. You wouldn't believe I scrambled home in the O level back in 1980 something. L'air du Vent was a horse that really impressed me at Bangor, and I think he impressed John Joe Neal Jr. as well, who rode him that day. I do like the Tizzards when they start off their novices at Cheltenham. There's been a host of really nice tools that have gone to these early season fixtures and run really well and sort of set a decent platform for the remainder of the season. I was just taken with him. I think he would have gone close in his point when falling. I don't think he was cheap either. Of course, in these colours, Brocade Racing as well, they've enjoyed massive success the last few seasons. So he's the next one off the production line for them. I think he looks a very exciting type. So I'll be keeping a good eye on him. Whether I back him or not, I don't know, because it's obviously first time over hurdles. But he's certainly very, very much a horse to keep close note of.
Yeah, and I think for the race, I'm delighted personally from a betting point of view that he's in the race. L'air du Vent. I think Slate House showed up here a couple of
Yeah.
seasons ago, and it's traditionally not perhaps not in this race. I think one later on, but it's traditionally a meeting where they unveil some of their good novices. And I think as a shape of the race goes, it's really important he's in there. It could mean that a horse like Brave Blue just goes off a shade bigger than perhaps he should. I think sometimes the Irish horses can be overbet here, but I wonder with a bit of competition. I think Brave Blue is rated 145. Depending on if he does head the market, I think he will, and how far he does. I just wonder, with some good competition against him, I think Brave Blue will win given the experience he's got, and he could be the now horse for all. A horse like L'air du Vent may improve past him, but I thought personally Brave Blue was the most likely winner. But I think L'air du Vent is a really interesting horse going forward, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. It's got a nice shape to it, that race. The 2:35 is a novice's chase over 2 miles. Sam, first of all, we were just talking before we came on about Getaway Trump. I don't know whether you've spoken to anyone in the yard, but what are you expecting with Getaway Trump here over the first time?
Yeah, I've not really been privy to sort of any inside info, so to speak, regarding him. But I know that he's had a pretty good summer. They've been happy with his schooling. I think that's on public record. And I think it's a really intriguing matchup between himself and Al Dancer. Of course, they crossed swords a couple of times last year. And I think the Skelton team here will be looking to pull off the trick that they managed a couple of years ago with North Hill Harvey, with Not That Fusay, who does come here on the back of a pretty solid start over fences. He's going to have the fitness edge, you would think. I didn't think there was too much wrong with his performance behind Eric LaRouge as well at Uttoxeter. It takes a bit of jumping around that track on soft ground. So I thought that was an encouraging effort. Of course, he fell in the conditional jockeys race, unfortunately, with William Marshall on 12 months ago or 6 months ago at the festival. But these two horses are both 150, in excess of 150 horses. Getaway Trump looked as though he went just through a little mid-season blip where he perhaps just didn't fire as we thought he might do. Certainly with that Ascot performance wasn't particularly special, but finished the season very strongly. Absolutely hacked through that Sandown race as well over hurdles, and really did look at a novice chaser to be reckoned with this year, providing his schooling went well, and I've no reason to suggest that it hasn't. Al Dancer, obviously, from a stable as well, that are likely to have him pretty revved up and ready to go this year. Of course, he was a massive disappointment, in the Supreme behind Classical Dream, but he'd had a hard season going into that race, and perhaps they had been to the well a little bit too often with him, and he showed the effects of quite an industrious campaign up to that point. So I think it's really interesting to see how these two get on, and then the mix of the other two horses in alongside them who are inferior on ratings, but they do have the fitness edge. It's not a race I'd really want to bet in, I've got to be honest. I think probably the tempo and the rhythm of the race will be set over the first 2 or 3 fences, and probably a race that you want to have a look at on the exchange, and perhaps bet in running if you get a feel for it. But it's an intriguing event all told.
It's probably the race I'm most looking forward to, given I love this time of year when the novice chasers come out. Just looking at some very early prices, or the shape of the Matchbook market as it stands at the moment, it looks as though there's a little bit of preference for Al Dancer over Getaway Trump, and perhaps that horse will go off a favourite. I was sort of hoping from a betting angle, because I'm in Al Dancer's camp, Dees, personally. I think that the old course here, I wonder if he could just have a bit too much speed for Getaway Trump. For all I was really impressed with that horse, what he did at Ayr and at the back end of last season as well on good ground at Sandown for that last start over 2. But he was always a horse I expected to want a stiff finish and over 2 miles and perhaps 2.5 in time. And I've also got that this time of year. It's something that Sam and I and Don discussed on the How to Play the Jump Season podcast, with the strategy podcast. Nigel Twiston-Davies, I like him. I like his ability to really ready them first up. So for me, Al Dancer was I'm a huge Getaway Trump fan, but Al Dancer was the horse for tomorrow. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how that exchange market develops and whether or not Al Dancer does hold his position right at the top of it. If there's not a lot between them, I'd be Al Dancer camp, Dees.
Yeah, you've kind of said it all there. I think Al Dancer as open up favourite. I think he's probably the worthy favourite. I think that chasing types generally come out of the Supreme, and I mean he was good enough to start off favourite for the Supreme last year. It'll be a brilliant race. I was actually thinking, like, if I had to have a bet in this, I might have a small bet on Not That Fusay, just because of what Sam said. Thought he was he jumped nice the last day behind Eric LaRouge, and he was giving him £5 as well, which is a fair bit of weight. Like, Eric LaRouge is a good horse. But again, they're so far clear in ratings that it should just be a match between Getaway Trump and Al Dancer. So it'll be a great race, very informative for going forward for the year.
Just one final point, Tom. If you were looking to trade the race through the exchange, you've got a horse in KS Marcius who's going to be the outside of 4 probably. He's a front runner. He's a horse that jumps pretty well in the main. You know, he's been around Hexham, Newton Abbott, you know, tricky tracks that just take a little bit of jumping, a little bit of organising at. He's probably going to be the outside of 4. That might be a nice trade possibility there. You know, you only need the 2 big players, so to speak, to get into the first or start fiddling the first or second. You'd probably be able to get out with that with a healthy green up. So, you know, that might be an option.
Yeah, interesting point. Now, Kesmark is giving away a bit of weight here, but for good reason, given what we've seen already. So, Sam, also on Getaway, what trip do you see him ending up over this season, Getaway Trump?
I think he might be one of those Nichols horses. It's just a real good, strong stayer at 2, like a Politolo, or, you know, those sort of horses really that, although he probably gets 2.5, the way that he travelled through that Newbury race when Champ beat him, you know, he was pretty strong throughout that race there until Champ went past him late on. You know, and he stays too strongly on decent ground. I think he's got all the hallmarks of developing into the perfect Arco horse, really. I think he's got the class. I think if he can prove his affinity and his effectiveness at Cheltenham, then I think you've got your race there ready-made for him, really. I'd be surprised. Well, maybe at the top class, whether he is quick enough to go over 2, but I'd be surprised if they go venturing over 2.5 this year.
We'll learn a little bit with that second contest tomorrow. The 3:10 is the 2 Farmers Crisps handicap hurdle over 2.5. I'll kick us off with a horse who I'm pretty sure isn't going to be firmly at the top of the betting, which is a horse called Boreham Bill, who I liked very much when in the previous care of Ben Pauling. Went to Emma Lavelle. I didn't know if an attempt over fence just set him back a bit last season, but equally I was very pleased with what he did first up this season. Now, the caveat to that is he's a horse that's shown a bit fresh before, and I wonder if that was the key. But there is also the chance, and we won't find out till he runs, that he's just settled into Emma Lavelle's yard. We've had a good time of it of late, and I think we'll have a really good season. I think this could be one of the horses that goes on. So you're taking a bit of a risk, given that it could be a fresh thing with him. But I'd be willing to play, given that I don't think he'll be in the top 2 or 3 in the betting personally when that market really develops. Dees, you want to go next?
Yeah, I went for something I'd be expecting to be a double figure price. Well, I went for Breaking Waves, Noel Williams' horse. He finished 3rd in the bumper here last year. He's kind of always been kind of on the radar. He hasn't really run in any big races, but I think he always kind of runs his race. He hasn't ever really I think he's only won once out of 5, but I like his running style. I think he's kind of always there at the last. He's had, you know, he's a year old, and now he's a bit stronger, and I think that he's definitely going to be about 20.0 or something like that. So I think he'd be a nice bet for a small win in a small place. And this race last year as well, there was a massive gamble landed on first assignment. I was actually over there, and everyone at the course seemed to be on him except for me. So if you want to watch for the money as well in this race, because he was back from I think 10-1 down into 92 to win it. Like, so this is a race definitely to watch where the money comes from.
He was the Pertemps good thing last year, which didn't materialise. Oh, yeah. I think everyone and his wife was on that horse. They've actually Connection's got a runner later on who I'm quite interested in. Sam.
Yeah.
2 great points made by Dees. First, the market should be illuminating. You've got a host of stables here that look very likely to have their horse ready for a race of this nature early on in the season, whether it be John Joe O'Neill, Fergal O'Brien, Philip Hobbs. You've got a series of horses sort of stepping out of novice company into handicap company. Seriously, Henry Daly's horse is going very well at the moment. Storm Goddess from Charlie Longsdon, Dan Skelton at the foot of the weights with a blinkered first-time horse, and of course Charles Burns with 1 off 122. So very much a tread carefully kind of race for me, and the market I think will be illuminating as Dees touched on. Bizarrely, in a field of, well, we've got 19. Me and Dees have both sided with the same horse. I've gone with Breaking Waves as well. I like the form of that. I think the fact that he's been round Cheltenham in the bumper, I think, is encouraging. And he got beaten 9 lengths by Lisnagar Oscar last year at Chepstow. The Huntingdon performance was a nice one on slightly better ground, and then at Newbury again ran well. I think Leighton Aspel taking over from Harry Teal as well. I'm not saying Harry Teal's a negative, but Leighton Aspel obviously a huge positive. A couple of Noel Williams horses have run well in the last week as well, fresh off the shelf. So fingers crossed, Breaking Waves would give us a good run for our money, decent, as you say, 16, 20 to 1 and upwards perhaps.
He's never been given a hard time once he's been beaten in races as well, which I kind of like. I think they're saved. He must be a good horse. They're saving him for something good. So that's unbelievable that we both come down and Breaking Waves.
Yeah, well, hopefully with a good summer on his back as well, he's strengthened up a little. I mean, don't forget he was only 4 last year, trying to mix it with some decent animals. So I think he'll be, he's quite an interesting horse to go forward with this year. And I'm also going to keep an eye on Rapper as well down the foot the weights. Henry Daly's horses are well forward at the moment. And he was second to Dr. Sanderson, that nice Nichols horse that ran in the colours of Million in Mind, I think, last year. So I think he could be nicely handicapped off 1, 2, 4, 2.
He was very well punted that day as well against Dr. Sanderson, because I backed Dr. Sanderson that day. I kind of had my eye on him, but Rapper had won as well, I think, about 3 weeks previous, and had been punted off the boards as well. So if there's money for him, he's worth a bet as well, definitely.
Yeah.
The 345, couple of nice 5-year-olds mentioned by the lads in that previous race. The 345 is an absolute cracker, and some good horses have won this in the past. We've got some good horses in here, including the 153 rated Holstone. Who wants to kick us off with this? I've got Rock Point in here. I don't think I can back again, I've just been to the well too many times for all he's a course winner, who's still only 6, miraculously. Feels like he should be about 10. But I think we've got some nice young horses in here, making their chasing debuts. Holstone's had a go already. They obviously kept going with him over hurdles for an extra couple of seasons, and rightly so, given what he achieved. As Sam Turner, off you go.
Well, I wouldn't give up on Rock Point just yet. He's an early season horse. He's had the wind operation as well. Goes well around Cheltenham. Obviously got the Lisnagar Oscar form as well from prior to Christmas last year. So, he's only 6 years of age. I'd just peek into that well once more, perhaps, Tom. I'd give him a couple more tries now he's had the wind up, because how it sometimes can turn horses round.
It's going to be price dependent, isn't it, with him? I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a cracking race. Lovely to see. Hopefully they all go to the post, and we can bet win and place here. 8 runners for a race of this nature is terrific. Holston, I think, would be much better suited going left-handed. I don't think he was altogether comfortable last time at Perth, albeit he won, very snugly in a match when his only sole rival came down. I'm going to take a little chance with Dinons. He's only 6 himself. He won at this meeting last year over hurdles. He's got plenty of chase experience. He's ridden quite aggressively. I think he's fairly decent trading prospect, really. Watch him come down now, but he has jumped pretty well in the main. Whether he's going to be quite up to beating 1 or 2 of these 6 months down the line, I don't know. I see him more of a festival handicapper rather than a graded performer. But early season fitness can be a massive thing. I was quite taken with him at Limerick as well, where he jumped pretty well that day, established a good lead over Mind's Eye, and held on pretty gamely and pretty cosily at the line. So I'll probably take a little chance with him, and perhaps look to get out of the bet halfway round or 3/4 of the way round.
Deasy, if you don't mind, we'll just come in with Holstone, of course. I think, to my eye, being the most likely winner with that course form. And whenever they met over hurdles, Holstone seemed to have the beating of Rock Point more often than not. I think that will transpire again today. But the horse I want to talk about in the main, and again, it's going to be price dependent, but if they all rock up, he could be very interesting in the place market. I think Manila Warrior will be underestimated. He's had a wind up. He finished second to not many left in his Pertemps qualifier, which I imagine connections thought they would win and probably get in the Pertemps. But of course, Jessica Harrington's not many left came over for a raid, and Julie went on to finish third in the Pertemps itself. He might have challenged. I think he would have beaten, you know what I mean, Harry, but he might have challenged in the Grade 1 at Punchestown as well, but for all coming down late on. So I think that's a good bit of form, and I think he's just the type of horse, Manila Warrior, that's going to be, for me, underestimated against some, established performers rated far higher. He's got a lot to find. Of course he does. He's only getting £5 from a nigh on stone better rated horse in Holstone, but he's a horse that's well worth his right to make a better chaser, and the type of Kim Bailey horse as a novice chaser I think is going to be underestimated. So I like him. I'm going to be interested to see what sort of season he has, Manila Warrior, but I think he's probably quite good. Death.
boring enough, but it's Holstone for me. I watched his race there now just before this as well, and I liked the way that he kind of he learned on the job. His jumping got steadily better during the race. I think he won bad jump around the 9th or 10th, and I mean it was only a schooling session, but I think that he could have far too much engine just for a lot of these horses. He's well, he's very good around Cheltenham. He's going to be a short price, but I think that he could have far too much for some of these horses. I mean, my shortlist was Holstone, Dinans, and Boyhood, but just having looked at them all, I think Holstone should, especially in receipt of £3 from Dinans. I think that's an incredible thing from him. So yeah, I hate tipping favourites, but I think he's a worthy favourite here, and I think he should go on and win.
He is. He's rated to be the best of them, isn't he? But it's a really good contest. That
Yeah.
main hurdle at 4:20. I don't know what sort of opinion we have on this, or on whether it is a play or not. Anyone, it's a really, particularly with no prices that we've got currently. It could be anything sort of affair. The one obvious thing to say is a recruitment who hasn't tasted victory as yet in the form of Fred, but the connections Messrs. Minnear and Swade do very well with these type of horses, and of course he has to be respected. But for me, this would be a sit on your hands job. What do you think, lads?
I think it's a terrific race of its type. A really exciting and fascinating race. If I'm honest, I'm just thankful I haven't got to price it up, because you could have serious egg on face moments here, couldn't you, trying to get these right? Obviously, Get a River will probably campaign with the Mare's Hurdle at Newbury in mind. I would think they'll probably go down the same route as Roxana with her. She's been talked of in those terms as well, which I think is encouraging. Even if the fact that she's got she's had a wind up and she wears a tongue tie for the first time and she's got a hood on, those are sort of just little attributes or accoutrements that you wouldn't necessarily be in love with really first time out. You just want to see how she went first over hurdles with that. Master Debonair is another horse that's had a wind operation. He must be catching down the West Country, because Colin Tizard seems to be using Paul Nicholls' vet. He must be so busy, Paul Nicholls' vet. I'm surprised he's got time to do anything else other than wind operations down there. But Master Debonair is obviously a horse out of that Strong Glance bumper that we talked about briefly early on. He didn't quite go on last year, but he's been around Cheltenham 3 times already, and I think that's massive for a horse of pretty inexperienced and quite a formative career. So I think those are very interesting. Fred's interesting, and I think the top horse, that could be absolutely anything. Captain Mathan, sort of reading and listening to 1 or 2 trainers' blogs and various things in the summer in the interim before the season really got started, and I think he is held in pretty high regard, Captain Mathan. So it's fascinating to see how he's priced up as well. Probably not a race for a bet, especially with a number of these sort of tackling hurdles for the first time, but some classy individuals here, and it should be a really intriguing race to watch.
I'd love to see the colours of Captain Mathan carried by a serious horse again, and I know there have been plenty, haven't there? But I'm a fan of those colours, given the success they've brought connections in the past. Deasy, anything to add? You
just want to see his owner in the winner's enclosure, don't you? Sporting his new haircut. That's what you want.
That's exactly right. And then talk about...
It's toss-up, actually, between you and Andy Stewart, 5 to 6 each to 2, wouldn't it? Who has the most bleach on?
I'd back myself for having a bit more depth. I shouldn't say that. The free stay in Barbados is off. That's it, off the card. Happening.
Let's see if you've still got the depth for you get to 70, sunshine.
Yeah, quite right, Andy. Quite right. I take it all back. Dees, anything to add to that race?
No.
Or any haircut additions, Dees?
No, geez, I get the same haircut every time now, Sam. Blade going all over. In and out 15 minutes. I'm trying to find a barber that will charge me by the second I'm in there, rather than just a set price of a tenner, because it's a big job these days. Yeah.
The one miracle with my hairdresser is how he makes it last 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's it.
He's a magician.
Shall we kick on to the 455, the Amateur Riders Handicap Chase? Micheál, Deasy, I'll let you come in with this, given that we left you lighter on the previous race.
Thank you very much, Tom. In these races, I generally just go with the jockey, and I'm just going to keep it simple here now. I'm going to go for the Wicked Chicken, Neil Mulholland's horse. Jamie Codd is coming over to ride it. everyone knows how good he is around Cheltenham. I think the fact that he's travelling over is a tip in itself. So I'm just going to keep it simple and stick with him.
I am going to echo that. And I think I remember Derek O'Connor won it a few years ago, and I thought, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like her, the Wicket Chicken. She looked, I thought, a bit outpaced here last year, actually. But and I know she wants a test. Last win came over 3.5, but I think the jockey booking's massive. I quite like both the Mulholland horses, actually. I thought Doing Fine deserved a bit of respect as well, but is 11 now, and I still think the Wicked Chicken's got a lot of upside. I think isn't going to head the market per se, so you hopefully could get a little bit of value there. And I thought she was the most interesting runner, given Mr. Jamie Codd. I think it's a huge booking and a huge positive. Sam?
Yeah, and I think the stable have won it a couple of times in the last 10 years, including in these colours with the Young Master as well, I think. So it's clearly a race that they target, and both of their horses at least look to come in fairly decent form. I'm going to take a little chance with Coba Lobo. John Joe Neal's made such a bright start to the season. Tommy O'Brien, very useful rider in this sphere as well. And, just looking back at the horse's records, he's come twice off a really extended break, a 284-day break last year. He got beaten a short head by Kilbrick and Storm in the Foss Last Novice Chase. The previous, 2 years previously, he was 263 days off the track and got won a neck, beat Dartford Warbler a neck at Uttoxeter over 3 miles as well. So clearly goes very well fresh. He hasn't got a lot of experience, which isn't always the way I like to go in this type of race. But the fact that his yard have made such a bright start, the fact he goes so well fresh, and the fact I like Tommy O'Brien riding in these type of races, I'll take a small chance with him.
I promise I'm not just saying this. Cobolobo would absolutely be my second in, mainly because I backed him last time. I thought that Kilbrick and Storm form meant that handicap-wise he was very well treated. I don't know, it's too early to say what would have happened last time, but there was a lot to be positive about, I thought.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, I can absolutely take that. I don't think I'll back 2 in the race, to be honest, given the nature of it. And I just sided with the Wicked Chicken. The 5:30 is the Matchbook Betting Exchange podcast. It's quite good, that, lads.
Who are they?
Yeah, it's not
Who
bad.
are they?
It's not bad. They got this Deasy fella on it. He's
yeah, so I hear.
One to watch.
I love it.
Conditional Jockey's Handicap Hurdle, this is. Who wants to kick us off? Come in.
Go away, Sam, because we might pick the same horse again this time. I don't want to steal your thunder twice.
All right. Benny's Bridge for me. Benny's Bridge. Is that the same as you, Dees?
No.
Obviously, Fergal likes to get them ready for these sort of handicap hurdles. Like Connor Brace is a rider definitely to keep on side this year. I think he's extremely talented. Last seen finishing 15 lengths behind Getaway Trump in that Sandown finale hurdle. But he's a horse that managed to win round here. I mean, the day that he beat Flash to Steel, I think I tipped a horse of Tom Lacey's Flashing Glance, who I thought had won all the way around the track, really. In the end, he finished third. But Benny's Bridge was sort of given a beautifully patient ride by Paddy Brennan, and then just mullered them all for stamina and speed and whatever up the hill. I think if he's anywhere in the same sort of form, I'd almost be tempted to have a bet on him. That's how much I quite like the horse. When he's right, I think he's very useful. He can be a bit keen. He'd want him to go a decent gallop so he can just drop in and find some rhythm. But I think Connor Brace is that type of rider who will just be, quietly away. Hopefully he'll steer the outside route and try and find a nice bit of ground and produce him late on, arrive on the scene in the closing stages.
Dees, go on, nick mine. Part of the horse I'm going to put up.
No, I'm not. I have him fancied as well. I'm going to talk about is Storm Rising. He won this last year off 1-2-3. He's back here again off 1-2-6. He won this last year easily, and then went out a week later and won again. His form kind of tailed off after. I think he went up to 1-3-5 at one stage, so he's come tumbling back down. He's had a bit of wind surgery, and hopefully that'll get him going again. But I will be watching this race now for whichever one, Storm Rising or the horse I want to mention, whichever one of these starts getting backed. I'd be quite happy to ditch Storm Rising and go for Warrogate if the money comes from, just from what happened last year with first assignment. But I think Stormrise could be a good bet in this.
War Brigade is my horse. The one caveat to that is, again, as the market develops, I'd want a decent price about him initially, to be honest. The likes of Benny's Bridge in there and Oakley and Who Shot the Sheriff, I can see their claims to be towards the market. So War Brigade, I think on what he's shown, his bare form over hurdles, I think you'd want to be getting a good bit of double figures about him, 14.0, etc. To make it worthwhile, because he does come with concerns. I think he probably wants a little bit further, although this track will help. But Ian Williams is so good with these types of horses, of mixing it up across both codes. I remember asking him at Sandown the year before last. He had a couple of horses, one who subsequently was sold to Hong Kong, I think, and the other who did very well over hurdles. Who I said, why do you mix it up? And do you worry about them not being given a decent break? And he said it just brings their hurdling forward so much. A little campaign on the flat just brings them forward for a second season over hurdles. I think he's a really interesting horse this year. So he'd be my one for the race. But equally, I sort of get this feeling that he won't be lost on the market. And actually, I think you want to be getting a little bit of value with him, would be what I'd say.
On that subject, just because I didn't actually bring it up there earlier, but seeing as you brought it up there now, what do you think? I know about this race, the race 5, but Ship of the Finn, he's another Ian Williams horse that's been busy over in the flat season, and I'm sure they had him lined up for a massive gamble at Goodwood, and he came second. Jason Watson never got the ride again on the horse, but I mean, he could be a big price. Do you know anything about him? Or he was beaten by Paddy's Motorbike over the mile 6 at Goodwood during the summer, and then he was back from 3 or 4 into favouritism and was just beaten into second, and he's turning up in a hurdle here now. So
he's obviously, I mean, he showed a bit for Martin Mead, didn't he? And I think the good thing is for the jump season, he showed form on soft ground, 41 on good to firm for these connections. I don't remember the Goodwood race off the top of my head. But he's in that race. He is one. I think they've probably been forced to run in a race of that nature, and he would be one, given the yard and the ownership, that could just be one worth keeping on the back burner for down the line. Would be my assessment of him as an overall horse. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, well, just on a point that you made, Tom, with the hurdlers that they tried both codes. I mean, obviously speed dating at Chepstow a week or two back was really impressive. And the Williams horses, just on the flat, have just gone through a little bit of a quiet spell, but obviously had the 50-1 winner of the bumper at Worcester earlier on this week, and speed dating as well. They're just starting to click into gear again. So I think your lad has got a right chance in that last race if the money comes from him. That has all the hallmarks of a little bit of a plot for me, and I think anything double figures looks pretty fair for him with the potential for quite a sizable punt.
Yeah. My girlfriend's dad backed that 50-1 shot in Worcester yesterday because Tom O'Brien was on him. He thinks he's a genius now over it.
Yeah, even more so now.
Absolutely. Right, good news for you two is you're going to get a £10 risk-free bet now.
All right, perfect. I like that.
So it's £10 risk-free bet. Let me take you through it. It's for new customers only. Now you're not, but we're reaching out to you guys for the purpose of this. If the first bet loses, Matchbook will refund your stake up to a maximum of £10. The bet must be placed within 7 days of sign-up. Accumulator bets do not qualify for this promotion. You must be 18 plus. Go to offer.matchbook.com. If you're watching us, that is likely to be up on the screen now, so you can follow it there. If you're listening, offer.matchbook.com for your £10 risk-free bet for new customers only. Sam, first of all, where would you stick to your risk-free tenner?
I'd put it on Benny's Bridge, and then at least you've got all the afternoon to look forward to it, rather than putting it on the first race and you get disappointed straight away. So yeah, Benny's Bridge should be a reasonable price. I would think third, fourth favourite, something like that. So might be worth playing.
Dees?
I'm going to go the opposite, Sam. I'm going to go for the first race. Champagne well in the first race. If he loses, you're going to get your tenner back in time to bet the second race, and if he wins, you have a nice bank for the rest.
There we are. There speaks the company man.
Oh yeah. I'll be organising as well, so it's in my interest to get it in there just after the first race, so I can have my Saturday off.
Beautiful. Right, let's do some best bets. My best bet, first of all, for Friday afternoon at Cheltenham, is going to be Al Dancer. Very nearly Manila Warrior, but I in that place market, we need to make sure all of them show up first of all. So Al Dancer, I think, to get the better of Getaway Trump and a couple of other rivals. I think he's the horse for now, and I think he'll be best on the day. So Al Dancer for me. Sam?
I'm going to stick with Benny's Bridge each way. I think Benny win and place. Benny's Bridge for me.
And I am going to stick up a double. I'm going to stick up Al Dancer and Holstone on the double. I didn't want to put Holstone up on his own. I think that if Al Dancer wins his race, Holstone will collapse in price. So if you get him early on the double, you'll have a nice bet there.
Straight in there, Ackerman. Great work. That really is good for you.
I want the marketing, Tom.
Matchbook through.
Company wise, that's just top notch. Some people wouldn't even think of that, Sam, but very
No. It's been well briefed.
Well, he's going to give me the afternoon off now just for that. He'll be delighted.
There's always an agenda.
Yeah, that's it. When I get home, trying to watch United struggle to a 0-0 draw against Partizan Belgrade tonight.
Yeah, all the hallmarks of a classic, that, hasn't it?
No doubt Wolves will canter home, although some teams just score 5 in Europe for fun. On that,
they also win the odd league game as well, Tom. Some teams.
On that note, we'll say goodbye for the Friday preview of the showcase meeting. Don't forget to have a look at those videos that Don McLean have done online for Team Matchbook on all the home pages there behind the scenes at Cheltenham ahead of the showcase meeting. See all the great work they do there. We'll be back for another podcast previewing Saturday tomorrow, and we will see you then. For now, from us, bye-bye.